Excellent. Very good.
First of all, thanks for being with us. It's for the third time in a row you are with us, and we always follow your articles, your speech, and I would like to congratulate personally with you because you just appointed a member of Pontifical Academy of Science in Vatican.
Thank you very much.
And we know how much this is important, and the commitment of Vatican is really important. So thanks for being with us. You are watching the global geography, climate geography, since many years. I would like to ask you, what is your feeling about the COP26 in Glasgow? And first of all, starting from your country, from the United States, and the new climate policies, how do you see it? And if there are obstacles, and what is your feeling about it, and maybe your perception for the next years?
Thank you very much. The most important thing at COP26 is that the entire world agree to decarbonize by mid-century. We've actually made some important political progress in that in just the recent weeks, because President Putin has said that Russia will commit to net zero by 2060. Indonesia has committed to net zero by 2060. Turkey has committed to net zero by 2053. Interestingly, Saudi Arabia this week committed to net zero by 2060. Australia, which has been, of course, one of the worst laggards as a major coal exporting country, committed to net zero domestically by 2050. This is progress. It's real. One can be cynical about the difference of statements and achievements, but I would take this as major progress. 2060 is not good enough, but it's better than what we had before. So we now have almost all of the G20 committed to getting to net zero. India is the last holdout, which is very disappointing, given that India is one of the most vulnerable parts of the entire planet to climate change. So we expect much more of India than has so far been apparent. Now, the United States, as usual, is also a laggard country. Our politics are corrupt. They are still infused with money from big oil. We have President Biden wanting to do a lot, but a majority of the Senate opposing action. This is not entirely surprising, but it is very disappointing. Big oil spends hundreds of millions of dollars on lobbying and campaign contributions. The American political system is rotten right now. The American people want action, but we're not getting action at the federal level. We are getting action at the state and regional level. Now, let me just summarize, if I could, what is really needed at the G20 this weekend and at COP26. We need all countries to commit to net zero by 2050. Of course, some will stick at 2060 this coming week. Then we need the G20 to supervise actual plans. It's one thing to give an announcement, it's another thing to present a plan. Most of the countries that have committed do not have a plan to get to net zero by mid-century. We need plans, and we need the G20 to be supervising and helping to put that in place. Third, we need global cooperation. We can't have a Cold War with China and save the planet. The United States foreign policy is not accurate. Europe needs to be very clear. Cooperate, cooperate, cooperate. This is not the time for a Cold War. This is the time for cooperation, for joint infrastructure, for joint planning, for technology standards, for making things work, not for a Cold War. And the fourth point I want to emphasize is we need financing. The rich countries promised the poor countries at least $100 billion per year, starting last year. This is not a lot of money. It's 0.1% of world output. But the rich countries did not deliver. This is really a shame. It reflects a lack of seriousness and a lack of planning. Of course, we had the most unserious government in our history, under Trump. But even now, we do not have global plans for financing. And so if I could just end by saying, without serious plans, without serious financial plans to back up the decarbonization, we will be in a world, as Greta said, of blah, blah, blah. We can achieve these goals, but we need seriousness of planning, financing, and action. I'm very happy that Italy is hosting the G20 this week. This is the time to put these pillars in place. Thanks for allowing me to be with you today.
Thanks very much, Jeff. If you can stay just for a few minutes with us, I have one more question to you.
Sure.
Jeff, you are always very frank, open, and sincere. So let me be direct with you. You said that in US, the Senate can jeopardize the willing and the goals of President Biden. How is this possible? Is this really the case, or shall we expect something that can change in the next months? And this is my question on US. And my second very open question about China. You are right in saying that there shouldn't be a Cold War against China. But at the same time, if China is continuing to emit on coal and to have the growth on coal until 2030, we don't want a Cold War, but how can we ask them to reduce this and to anticipate the goal to 2050? Which are the diplomatic weapons that we can use?
Thank you. In the United States, the US Senate ratified the Climate Convention in 1992, but since that date, 29 years later, has not passed one piece of legislation to stop the climate change. So why is this? This is because the American political system is corrupt with money. And the oil industry, and it used to be the coal industry, which is basically bankrupt now, funded the Republican Party and part of the Democratic Party. So the Republican Party to this day, which has 50 of the 100 seats in the Senate, is 100% opposed to climate legislation. At the same time, in the Democratic Party, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who was called by an ExxonMobil lobbyist the, quote, kingmaker for the oil industry, has told Biden that he will not support the Clean Power Plan. The American public want action, but our political system is corrupt. And this is what has stopped action till now. At the local level, at the state level, there is action in many places. But at the national level, it is a disgrace, and it continues to be a disgrace. And it continues to be because of America's broken politics. I hope that President Biden hears an earful from the rest of the G20 this weekend. This is not tolerable. Not only is the United States not leading, it's not even cooperating properly in this mode of operation. As for China, China today issued a white paper on climate action. China will be the low-cost provider of photovoltaics, wind turbines, high-voltage direct current transmission, 5G, electric vehicles, battery supply chains. So China has the means to decarbonize by mid-century. I would urge the European Commission to sit down with the Chinese technical leadership to work out plans and programs to accelerate China's transformation. It is not where it needs to be yet. It is on the right direction now, but not at the right pace. But this is something where Europe already is the key to moving China to accelerate decarbonization. If Europe and China cooperate, including on infrastructure, including on Belt and Road and Europe's infrastructure, so that these are coherent, we will get a tremendous acceleration of decarbonization in China. With a Cold War, we won't get it. We will get business as usual. With cooperation, we will get an acceleration of action.
Thanks very much, Jeff. We will hopefully see you also next year, but hopefully much before next year to the next meetings. Keep up with your very good work and see you soon. Thanks very much, Jeff.
Thank you so much.